Global Esports started a global trend in the world of Valorant this week. Their introduction into the world of VCT's highest competition was fueled by the love, passion, and ambition of the Indian fans. Every single GE fighting was felt across the entire Valorant ecosystem. Whether or not they won, no one really was bothered too much. The fans were just absolutely ecstatic to see an Indian org at a level everyone only dreamed of seeing in the far future. But diving into reality, let's have a look at what actually happened at Global Esports against Team Vitality. Let's first have a look at Global Esports from outside the game. The team had a very unique build, having recruited players from across the world. That's what made them so lovable, but at the same time, risky as well. A team filled with duelist mains across 5 out of the 7 players who had to reinstate themselves into new roles for the team and learn how to coordinate with each other from different parts of the world. Now, while this in itself is quite a task, having never practiced with each other enough, the team meeting each other completely only when they landed in Sao Paulo for lock-in, getting less than a week to actually work as a team and practice with each other in person, and then perform on quite literally the biggest stage in Valorant so far. Mind you, this isn't even the main roster that G was supposed to actually play with. Ronsky, who is an incredibly talented add-in on Global Esports, was supposed to be a part of the playing 5, but due to some personal issues, he couldn't make it to Brazil. Nerves, cohesion, adjustment of roles, and more all came into play heavily when facing off a European giant with a champions winner IGL like Vitality with their adjusted playing 5 within 2 to 3 weeks of given practice time. And that's exactly what happened. The match started off horribly for Global Esports. They had a really bad time on split, given that it was their own map. Looking at their lineup, it almost seemed like Bazi was really uncomfortable in his initiator role, and SK Rossi on the Sage 2 almost had no impact across the entire game, even when he picked up the operator. Aiden was the only one who actually ended up having a rather decent game. It almost seemed like it was going to be a dominant 2-0. Nobody really knew what to expect from GE, but it seemed like Vitality knew everything all too well on split. Twistin and Molsey were absolutely turned up on split as they literally destroyed everything in sight. GE looked like they needed a really long warm-up to get into the game, and that warm-up was the entire map of split itself. But here's where the bad news ended. Come Pearl, GE still seemed like they were a little weak going into this map, but that wasn't the case. GE were consistently great with their pistol somehow. They showed that potential by winning literally every single pistol round across all 3 maps, getting a 100% pistol win record in the tournament. They started off the same way in Pearl, this time with a comp that honestly looked a lot more consistent in the terms of the way the roster and the team had to play. But even then, they had some work to do. Losing 4 rounds in a row, the score went up 3-6, and Bazi was still not able to adjust himself into that initiator role, was causing problems. But then, something happened. They were playing a pretty compact game throughout, not really having too much to extend apart from a couple of lurk plays by just a single player, which gave a lot of room for Vitality. But what they didn't expect was Texture and Monier's revival of form. Using the attacking operator to its best and taking out Twistin early in a couple of rounds made Global Esports take a couple of easy breaths into the rounds. They were not afraid of using the attacking operator on any map for that matter. But when not in play, their rounds ended up being really scrappy at times. Letting Vitality get that much of them seemed to be a problem they just couldn't handle. Vitality came out on their best, and G on their first day were definitely nervous, but managed to handle a 7-5 half, and here's where a short fairy tale begins. As it was, they won the pistol and the follow-up and lost the bonus, and this is where the GE train started running at full speed. Monnier and Texture started finding value in multiple rounds with the operator in the Jet's hand, and Monnier playing out of his mind with timings and angles, and his utility working his way throughout the map with that Astra. They were shutting down Vitality on every corner thanks to Texture and the utility usage and the aim power of Monnier. Vitality started making small mistakes towards the end of Pearl, and the confidence of GE started soaring. The minute Tristan was shut down in a round, Vitality almost seemed like they had no life left to continue. They stopped in their tracks to figure out what they could actually do. Because Twistan was their spearhead. every player on GE started pulling their weight, and it worked really well as time progressed. They went up 9-12, and what else but a 4K Rossi round to hand Global Esports their first ever international map.
Popped off, and it has separated them. Split them up. SK Rossi right into the corner. Does he realize? Finally spots it. Spike dropped down, and now to reswing. Reset in the aim, one after another. SK Rossi, with his country represented, India, taking them all the way now to map number 3 in this series.
Fans loved it, so did the watch party at Mumbai. Everyone waited for that SK Rossi moment, and it was delivered, and more so as the winning moment. Winning the map of Pearl showed the potential that this squad held that could be unlocked with proper practice and guidance. But that moment would soon fade away on Lotus. Everyone saw what G can do, for sure, but the experience ended up triumphing this series. After winning the pistol yet again and starting 3-1 up, Global Esports started slipping fast. They lost 6 rounds in a row with mistakes that were by tiny margins. Not able to trade and putting themselves in positions that they cannot get out of, especially with the agents they wielded. Like this round, for example, where SK Rossi is positioned. Look at where it is. This should be ideally where a Jet should be playing, so that even if things get rough, she can dash away. But the Jet was actually away wielding the operator, and that caused problems. And then one after the other, small mistakes kept costing them rounds, losing out on a 4v2 like this round, where they unintentionally line up, but being who they are, they should know better.
Plan's gonna go down, and no one really disrupting this up close to the wall. Texture does cover it.
What a shot.
And it has to be heroics, it has to be now, one after the other. The double swing, not spacing themselves out, and it is just crumbling before them.
Small dodges like these give Vitality a great life in a couple of rounds, and confidence too that they will take with open arms. One by one, the rounds kept tumbling as Vitality started playing really smoothly as a team and sold their fakes on the attack really well. Played post-plant positions also to almost perfection and kept GE on their toes. GE even switched up in terms of the operator use as SK Rossi picked it up too, letting Texture on a free Jet roll, but in those particular rounds, G ended up having the wrong read and there was no impact of their operator nor the free roaming Jet. Round after round, the players started losing grasp of positions and their confidence, and it almost seemed like the game was over even before it was over. You could see across the match that some players were just not comfortable in their roles, and having to showcase their talent on the biggest stage yet was even more pressurizing. They tried everything to their best, but there still needs to be a lot of work put in, which G are clearly keen to do. They are definitely going back to the drawing board to figure out everything once they are all together in Seoul, from roles to maps to strategies to everything. I believe that this is a roster with a long-term goal, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly how Global Esports' management and founding team also sees it. Just like how the previous GE roster was. With time, I believe this team can definitely give the biggest teams in the world a run for their money, and we will see the craziest of things coming from them. Will they adapt to a double duelist comp? Will they pick up a new playstyle contrary to what we just saw? All of these and more questions will be answered as we head into the VCT Pacific League soon. Until then, keep the love and the trust running and believe that we will see the true GE fighting.